This is the moment city skater Bill Stoppard knew that he'd fucked up. Yes, this is me close to my very worst. I was loving this tunnel, but I was also highly aware of my muskrat piss-smelling sweat and the growing knots in my quads. But let's go back in time. Yeah, we'll have to speed this up a bit. It was a very full 36 hours. And faster. Let's keep going. And where did this shit go wrong? Yeah, the beginning. Let's keep going. And we're getting close. There we are. I arrived in New York with huge expectations and a heavy-ass backpack. I checked into Row Hotel near Times Square, put my big suitcase in stored luggage, and hit the pavement on foot for some early shots with my Canon 7D. The drone and establishing shots were scheduled for Sunday morning. Today, in the dead time between landing and check-in, I would get in as many of these cinematic, iconic mid-shots and close-ups as possible. The kind of shots which are flashy in intros with music, but dependent upon well-considered wide shots in between. The day was spitefully hot with no whisper of a wind in the stark bleached-out Times Square area. Seriously, it was suffocating. Not changing into shorts early on was mistake number 1 on this trip. Carrying a 20-pound backpack in the hot sun was mistake number 2. And mistake number 3 was time, or lack of attention to it. After 4 hours of shooting under the unblinking fireball in the sky, I returned to the hotel partially cooked. I had time to take on more water, eat 2 tacos, and ready my prizes from Pro Skater's place. I repacked my camera bag and put the appropriate wheels back on my skates to get on the road 30 minutes ahead of tonight's Skater Hunter. Skater Hunter is where I post where I am on Twitter or Instagram so skaters can find me and claim their skate-related prizes. It's pretty simple. Next time, however, I will make it a lot easier for skaters to find me. No clues, nothing cryptic. I will simply put out exactly where I am and see who comes first. I might make him or her chase me a block or 2 for some fun though. Yeah, that's the new format. Anyway, on this night it took the Skater Hunters a long time to find me and me a long time to find them. I did have the pleasure of meeting other random skaters and including them in our game.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, my pleasure. Once Ian and Miguel found me, I considered the night complete. The game a success. Thanks, guys. The newly appointed Skater Hunters took me to the rendezvous point for the Tuesday night group skate. And I got to roll with them for several blocks, but peeled off for the hotel very early. I needed to gorge on water and attempt to sleep off the day's impact. The next morning, I woke up feeling about as fresh as a sack of shit. I knew I was supposed to eat, but I just wasn't feeling it. Still, I looked into City Kitchen, the place within the hotel where I got my tacos last night, and I found some breakfast places. Everything was converted.
That's it. Couldn't finish.
Okay, today's first roll was with David K., a friend of mine from the online inline world who provided some fantastically unique conversation and served as a guide through this colossal city. After chilling on this crazy old elevated rail line turned park, I requested that David take us to where New Yorkers were, where the fashionables, the artists, the hustlers lived. Of course, the king of hustle, Casey Neistat, was on my list of things to check out, and David got me there. I did get a couple of shots of his office, and the lights were on, but I don't think anything was going on. The perfect scenario would have been him exiting his studio to enter the street on his boosted board. I would have been trailing behind with the GoPro, recording. Next time, young Neistat. I think it was about an hour and a half into our skate that I started drinking copious amounts of water. I had brought water and then bought water, but I just couldn't seem to get enough. I don't think either of us had much will for this dream spot we found too late. There was also a concern that the ground sparkled with broken glass, so next time I should wear padding and bring a broom. Even met a skateboarder and he's on my Instagram. So immediately after my last exploration in the park, I tapped out. We were headed to the business district, but this was the closest I could get. A couple hours later, I was back on my skates, but I had a hard time organizing my thoughts and forgot my phone in the hotel. That was probably a good thing, but it bothered me all night, thinking I just dropped it somewhere on the way. Just before we got to this tunnel, I felt the talons of the quad demons dig in. I could do mini sprints or crossovers, but regular pushy strides were starting to cramp my quads. And I knew with great certainty, no matter what I did now, as I intimated to you earlier, that I was completely and utterly fucked. This was very early into the skate route. The rest of the night, I proceeded to hand the camera gear off to David only to forget about it. I also took way too many pictures with my GoPro when I thought I was recording video. That did not piss me off when I got home. Oh yeah, I also declined a push up a hill by Mike Jessup while I was cramping, then asked him for a push up the same hill 1 minute later. I must have stopped around 5 times to knuckle the cramps out of my quads. On this New York trip, I was supposed to be skating like a living legend, but instead I was living my leg's end. I know. I really did enjoy most of this night, and I managed to get some beautiful candid footage of North America's dopest skate scene. And while this night was a little bit messy, it was still one of my proudest personal successes this year. At the end of the night, I got a banana from Leon and an escort to the hotel from David. Then, once I was alone, shit got real. Imagine, you've just slipped into bed exhausted, then one of your quads cramps up with an electric contraction. Before you drive it out with your thumb, your other leg cramps up. Imagine the massaging hand is next to contort with spasms, then your neck, jaw, and mid-spine lock up. This was the crazy peak of my bedtime activities, but it was an all-night battle of physically driving cramps from calves and quads, mainly. The next morning there would be no drone shots, no big wide panoramics or essential city shots. Only a green-colored me confusedly trying to pack my bags for a hasty retreat to the airport. I didn't start throwing up heavily until the plane was landing. Throwing up in the washroom on landing with the stewardess banging on the door and yelling, "We're landing, sir. Please come out. We're landing. Please come out," is another discomfort I've never experienced. I will be far more shrewd in assessing future challenges, but I can't imagine which part of this weekend I would omit if I could go back in time. Should I have skipped the early road ripping and rock rolling? No, that was some of my best skating. Could the hunted skaters or skater hunters been excluded without cutting my experience in half? Absolutely not. Would I have missed the David K roll and chilling in the coolest part of the city? Hell no. He connected me to the city and showed me an impeccable traffic creeping protocol that I would adopt for the rest of the weekend. And the group skate, well, that's easy. That's why I chose to go to New York on a Wednesday in the first place. So it's irreplaceable. I guess if there's one thing I could go back and do over, it would be early into the group skate. I would take a cab and ferry myself to the final destination so I could eat, hydrate, and get a head start on the pint front. Yes, next time, it's not about the people. It's about the beer. I just couldn't imagine or compel myself to sit next to someone spilling the contents of my stomach into a paper bag. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. I would have drowned on it first.